Recording in progress. Oh, yeah. Okay, let me just find. So sorry, Mother, just tell me again that beginning of that.
If one is sincere, he's initiated.
Okay, quite an important sentence there. If one is sincere. Okay, I've got it. I don't know if everyone else is there. Let's just have a quick scroll down on my thing to see how. Okay, this is right at the very end of this purple.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to the next verse today. That's for sure.
Is
So
it text 7? Is it text 7?
Yes.
Yes, text 7. Towards the end.
Which chapter are we? Which chapter are we?
Chapter, we're on verse 7.
7.
If one is sincere, and we're going to be finishing this just now. Perhaps Mother Chandravali, you have your hand up. Let's offer prams to Srila Prabhupada first. Namo Om Vishnu Pada Krishna Vistai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vichaline Nivasesha Sundivade Pashtatara Siddharine. Jai Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so Mother Chandravali, you can take us to the end of this purple.
And whoever wants to read can also put their hands up.
Yeah, anyway, this time some hands are going up.
Okay. If one is sincere, he is initiated, and this stage is called Bhajana Kriya. One then actually engages in the service of the Lord by regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, 16 rounds daily, and refraining from illicit sex, intoxicants, meat eating, and gambling. By Bhajana Kriya, one attains freedom from the contamination of materialistic life. He no longer goes to a restaurant or hotel to taste so-called palatable dishes made with meat and nor does he care to smoke or drink tea or coffee. He not only refrains from illicit sex, but avoids sex life entirely. Nor is he interested in wasting his time in speculating or gambling. In this way, it is to be understood that one is becoming cleansed of unwanted things, anartha nivritti. The word anartha refers to unwanted things. Anartha are vanquished when one becomes attached to the Krishna conscious movement. When a person is relieved from unwanted things, he becomes fixed in executing his Krishna activities. Indeed, he becomes attached to such activities and experiences ecstasy in executing devotional service. This is called bhav, the preliminary awakening of dormant love of Godhead. Thus, the conditioned soul becomes free from material existence and loses interest in the bodily conception of life, including material opulence, material knowledge, and material attraction of all variety. As such a time, one can understand who the Supreme Person of Godhead is and what his Maya is. Although Maya be present, it cannot disturb a devotee once he attains the bhav state. This is because the devotee can see the real position of Maya. Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna. And forgetfulness of Krishna and Krishna consciousness stand side by side like light and shadow. If one remains in shadow, he cannot enjoy the facilities offered by light. And if one remains in light, he cannot be disturbed by the darkness of shadow. By taking to Krishna consciousness, one gradually becomes liberated and remains in light. Indeed, he does not even touch the darkness, as confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita 22:31. I'm not reading that. Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of external energy will immediately vanish.
Okay.
vanish.
I would often might speak like that. As soon as you take the Krishna consciousness, in other words, as soon as you turn towards the sun, then immediately darkness will vanish. We might not have that exact same experience, but ultimately that is the result. So just going back here, is there any reflections on this one? I was going to bring up something, but while I'm just scrolling back. Prabhupada, in the first paragraph we read, he gives sometimes when we speak about anatta nivritti, we, rightly so in one sense, we tend to get very analytical about it, fine-tuned, looking at the slightest deviation within our heart and mind. In one sense, and that's good. But here Prabhupada gives a, which he often does, gives a simple definition of anatta nivritti. For him, it means you're following the regulative principles. He says here, you're avoiding illicit sex life, you're not taking meat, you're not eating onions, you're not drinking tea. He describes this is all an anatta. Drinking tea is anatta, except if it's tea like this inside this cup, it's not got caffeine in. Yeah, that's okay. Then Prabhupada kind of correlates. We're on the safe road as soon as we start associating with devotees or become part of the Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada gives quite a general, easy to grasp definition of anatta nivritti. The chant 16 rounds, no longer goes to restaurants or hotels. Anyways, keep that in mind if some of you are doing that.
Yeah.
We're ordering a vegetarian meal.
Yeah.
Main thing is they're avoiding meat. Anyway, any reflections on that? Then Prabhupada speaks about bhava.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Nimawata's always got lots of nice questions. They got, yeah.
I don't know.
Very inquisitive. Very good. Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yes, please.
I sometimes think, Prabhu, this bhajana kriya and anatta nivritti, it is like one is in front. There are some days, like sometimes, because he said, if one is sincere, he is initiated. And this stage is called bhajana kriya. So looking at that sometime, of course, so that means initiation has to come only when you are sincere. So, but again, we see devotees struggle after initiation. Sometimes, in our moment, sometimes. So, I'm just thinking, and here anatta nivritti is the cleansing this, following regulative principles. So how could I understand this, Prabhu? Because anyway, when we follow regulative principles, only you get the initiation.
Yeah. Well, in one sense, these there's a verse that describes it. It describes the symptoms of being fixed.
Yeah.
And it describes, the word is used that almost all impediments in the heart are gone. So there's still some things left there. There's still some challenges left. So in other words, let me approach it from another direction, perhaps. Initiation, it means the beginning. The beginning. So one is sincere in taking initiation itself, but we should keep in mind that one is being initiated into the process of purification, or into the process of Krishna consciousness. And there undoubtedly will be challenges coming.
Prabhu, my question is very importantly, it says regulative principles is coming after. Why is that, Prabhu? Because when we can't take initiation, when you are said anattaniviti is become unwanted things. We understand that going to the restaurant, that is unwanted, but illicit sex and all that comes much ahead of initiation, isn't it, Prabhu? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the standard that Prabhupada gave. What you're speaking of, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Prabhupada here is giving quite a simple definition. He's just reminding us that, in other words, he's kind of reminding us that these things are important for our development in Krishna consciousness. So yes, for initiation, one should be quite fixed or quite solid in their following the regulative principles. But that also continues after initiation as well. I don't know if I'm making sense, if I've kind of grasped your question.
I'm not clear with my question, Prabhu.
Yeah, try again.
Prabhu, see, always after bhajana kriya is anattaniviti. So here, saying initiated, okay, but how come this regulatory principles come after anattaniviti? If it is that, it can't be like that, no? I don't know.
I don't think Prabhupada is exactly saying that here. He's
No.
not exactly saying that.
It doesn't say that, right?
No, he's not saying that. He's just, let's just read. Like, so if one is sincere, one is initiated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's the stage of bhajan kriya, where one seriously engaged in hearing and chanting. Yeah. And it should be understood. It should already be understood that one is following the regulative principles.
So
and Prabhupada is saying, one actually engaged in service to the Lord, and he's just kind of reminding us of what that means. One is following this lifestyle. Anyone else can perhaps give some light on this.
Prabhu, when we initially get the shelter, isn't that when we are told by senior devotees that these are the things? I mean,
yeah,
we already know. So it's like a preliminary. Once we get shelter is when people generally would really start following the 4 regulative principles, although you start long before that.
Yeah, you kind of...
It's kind of cemented after that my Guru Maharaj has accepted me. So
Yeah,
that's where the sincerity comes in, how we work towards our initiation.
Yeah, I think Savannah Radhika's made it more clear.
Yeah.
Does that help, Niyamamata? Someone I couldn't grasp exactly what you're asking about.
Yeah, that I understand that is right what she's saying. I understand, but I didn't understand is in this way. It is to be understood that one is becoming cleansed with unwanted things is anattaniviti. It is right. Okay, I understand. But why are we connecting anattaniviti with regulative principles? Because regulative principles anyway we have to. That is the start of Krishna consciousness, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you're just because it's not spelled out in chapter and verse, it is to be understood when you're at that level. We're doing 7. It's already there that we are practicing towards initiation. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah, it is right. But then anattaniviti is the second stage after bhajana kriya.
No. See, this, that's why I was saying in the beginning, this is a preliminary, quite a simple, encouraging description of anattanivritti.
Understood now, Prabhu.
Yeah, but the process of becoming free from attachments, it does continue. That's why I was quoting that. I can't forget the Sanskrit now. Nasta Preshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavati. So still the process of removal of material attachments, it will continue after one has taken initiation, okay, to take initiation, one should be strong and confident that they can follow the regulative principles. And on taking initiation and continuing to act on this basis is also a further sign of anartha nivritti. Yeah. But still, as one progresses through the different stages of nishtha, ruchi, shakti, and even a bhava, still there's purification which takes place. So although, like for instance, the first stage is faith, the next stage is associating with devotees. It doesn't mean when you start associating devotees, then you don't have faith. You faith is not important. It just gets deeper. So there's different levels of anartha nivritti. This is the very basic that Prabhupada's encouraging us in. It's the regulative principles. But then you got the subtle contaminations, which I said in the beginning. That's why a discussion on anartha nivritti can get quite detailed. But here Prabhupada's giving a simple definition of it. But the process of removal of attachments, that will be an ongoing process. That will be an ongoing challenge. And it's a good challenge because it kind of causes us to rise to the occasion and seek Krishna's shelter. So don't get caught out in the I think the different. I mean, there's different stages are given. This is the 9 stages that's given by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion.
Yeah.
But it isn't like when you get to one level, the one below is not relevant anymore. It just continues.
Now, because you said basic, okay, it's all cleared now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we use that word basic. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is like the bottom line.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we got there in the end, I think, I hope. Hare Krishna. All right, any other reflections on this? Otherwise, we can go to the next verse. Yeah, point here is Prabhupada also describes in a very encouraging way, because that is his experience. He describes the process like, then there's anartha nivritti, then he goes here, then he goes straight to bhava, as if it's a said and done. Yeah, anyone who takes it seriously to Krishna consciousness, they will get to bhava, the preliminary stage of awakening dormant love of God. Yeah, so Prabhupada is very encouraging, given a very encouraging outline of the process of Krishna consciousness. But as we're reading in our studies, if we really get into it, there's quite a bit there, you know. There's quite a few stages that we have to come to get to bhava. But Prabhupada's given is very encouraging. Yeah, that's why he said right at the end, he said, that's why I was highlighting that at the end. If one takes to Krishna consciousness, then immediately illusion will vanish. So it will, but we really have to really take to Krishna consciousness.
Our desire should be towards that.
Yeah.
Because once we desire, then Krishna will help us along the way.
Yeah.
So desire is very strong. That's why, as you said, that initiation is just a stepping stone. It's hard work after that. And it depends on our sincerity, how eager we are to take it.
Yeah, and it's hard work in the sense that once we have to work hard to stay steady in our practices. But then when we start getting a taste, it becomes a little bit more easier. You're kind of self-impelled and self-motivated by the taste you're getting.
Yeah.
You're not fighting so much against the material energy.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Prabhu, I think Prabhupada has connected with being attached to activities and experience ecstasy in executing devotional service, and this means bhav. But that is ruchi and nishtha, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what he says here, but he doesn't say that this is nishtha and ruchi, because once you get attachment, you obviously have had ruchi to become attached to devotional service. And
Yeah,
that is our nishtha. We are really aiming to do it, properly.
yeah. So Prabhupada here, he's not like when he says, when a person's relieved from unwanted things, he becomes fixed in his Krishna conscious activities. Indeed, he becomes attached to such activities. So that's the Shakti, and experiences ecstasy. That's Ruchi, and then it's Bhava. So having studied Prabhupada's books, and that's the wonder about Prabhupada's purports, is that we can read this and know actually Prabhupada's giving a summary here.
Mm.
We could expand upon this a lot more. But Prabhupada, in his genius, is giving a summary of the process, coming straight from Anata Nivriti to a Bhava. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, anyway, okay, thank you for that, Mother Vishanu. Did that comment upon your comment, was that in line, you think, or are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when it's the Bhava, then we cannot be disturbed by Maya. And he goes on, what is Maya means? You forget Krishna. As soon as you turn away from Krishna, then you embrace the shadow, or you embrace the darkness. Krishna is the light. As soon as you turn towards Krishna, there is light, and you become liberated.
Yeah, because that is what Prabhupada is not spelling it out, but it's all there.
Yeah. All right. Should we edge on to the next verse?
The idea when we, from Anasa Nivriti, we jump all the way to Bhav, forget about the Nishtha, Ruchi.
Yeah, but it's understood.
It's understood. It's the progression.
Yeah, because we have been studying the subject quite a bit, so we all know there's a bit. Prabhupada is giving a really summary here.
But those who just read it, like in the beginning, do not understand the process.
Yeah, it's only nature of devotion explains very clearly. Yeah, that is it. Yeah. This is why, thinking of that only, I asked this question.
Yeah, that's even when you do Bhakti Shastri, you'll understand it as deeply as Prabhupada's.
Yeah, because I understood that. Only I was
that's why I brought up the question.
Yeah. How come it is like this? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to I think I saw Mother Vishanu. You had your hand up for reading. We haven't heard you read for some time. Please, great to hear you.
So shall we go to text 8 now?
Text 8, yeah. You can read the translation if the verse is a bit too cumbersome. It's not.
I'll try the verse. Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyojaya isthan rachetat anuragi chananugami kalam nahyat akhilam itya upadesha sharam.
Very good.
Translation: the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraj, Golok Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Purport: since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 6, it is said, Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam antyajyate kalevarama tam tam eva tikonteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very continual, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna's prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tisthan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajbhumi. Vrajbhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 crosses in area. One cross equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrta Sindhu 1-294. Krishnam Smaranam Janam Kasya Prastham Nicha Samihitam Tattat Katharatash Chasau Kuryat Vasam Vraje Sada. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraj and always engage in Krishnam Smaram Janam Chasya Prastham, the remembrance of Śrī Kṛṣṇa and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under the eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
We're paused there, Mother. We're paused there. There's quite a lot here. Prabhupada, again, I was just reflecting on that discussion we had to begin with. This is Rupa Goswami is giving up. How many verses is it? 12 or so, 13. But he's given succinct verses, which are like sutras, which can be expanded upon greatly. So he's given a really succinct summary of the process of bhakti. So Prabhupada in his purports is also approaching it in the same way. Because, for instance, this verse is speaking about raganuga sadhana bhakti. Yeah, this is what is raganuga sadhana bhakti. So 24 hours a day, one is absorbed in meditating upon Krishna, and specifically it's mentioning Krishna's pastimes, yeah, and residing in Vrindavan, course, we understand from further study that means Vrindavan within the mind, or we may not be able to go there. And following in the footsteps of the Lord's devotees, that's all the raganuga sadhana. So, and especially the last verse we just read there at the end, a devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Raj and always engage in Krishnam Smaram Janam Tasya Preshtam. That's that means one is absorbed in Astakaliya Leela, which we have spoken of at the end of Sudha Bhakti Chintamani. Yeah, by following in the footsteps of such associates. So you're actually following the associates of Raj and being under their guidance. One can gain an intense desire. So that's lobha, to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's intense greed. So any questions on this or reflections? The beginning, Prabhupada is again quite basically describing about the mind can be a best friend or worst enemy. And he's quoting Bhagavad Gita.
Sorry, Prabhu, can I ask another one, Prabhu?
Yes, yes. Let's see if I can do better answering it. Yes.
Prabhu, here, the Krishnam Smaranam Janam Chaya, there, that desire comes due to false ego, but still we can discriminate.
Say, I missed a word there you said, Ken.
Because somehow our desires are connected with our false ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that desire, till we dovetail to serve the Krishna in this stage. Is that right, Prabhu? Yet you have the discrimination power because our desire, am I serving Krishna? So here should always reside. Sometimes we will desire to reside. And is it connected with the false ego? We have false ego at this time also, isn't it, Prabhu?
Well, no, this at this particular stage, one is, of course, it's raganuga sadhana, but it's understood that to execute raganuga sadhana bhakti, the least achieved platform is to be fixed. One can take it up before that, but generally it won't happen until one is on the platform of being fixed. That means they're not enslaved or they're not influenced by a false identification with the body and with the material world. So at this stage, one's desires are not going to be mixed with the false conception of their identity in the material world.
Okay.
Thank you. At this stage, it's not their identity will be more with or more in Raj and the associates of Vrindavan.
Okay.
And it gets to a stage where, just like, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your relatives, etc., and you feel a relationship with them, isn't it? You feel a relationship with them and you feel a connection. But that here, the stages of raganuga sadhana and further stages, that is then to Krishna and his associates, and that's where you feel your connection and your identity, and you're becoming further, or you become further detached and completely aloof from your relationships within this material realm. You only follow, so the same way that we become, we identify with our cousins or our brothers or our materialistic friendship. Actually, at this stage, you can see one is like always absorbed in thinking of Krishna, because that's what the residents of Vrindavan do 24 hours a day. they are thinking of Astakalya Lila. They're just thinking of Krishna. So this is a stage where devotee is in this, although he hasn't achieved it, he or she is not placed in that situation. They have the same mindset. As the residents are absorbed in Krishna, so these devotees at this level are the same. They're absorbed in Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada in the beginning, he's speaking about the mind. Yeah, training the mind. So this is what we are training the mind to be absorbed in Krishna. Yeah, we're training to mind, just like the residents of Vrindavan, when Krishna comes out to head towards the pastures, they're all full of thought about Krishna. Yeah, they're all thinking about Krishna according to their different relationships, and also when he comes back in the early evening. Yeah, so this is the mind of a advanced devotee, of advanced devotee. Yeah, so Prabhupada's kind of reminding us that the process means we have to bring the mind under control, because that's where because that's where we want to put it. We want to put it in Krishna's pastimes. So we have to. Was it udarit atmaratmanas atmanam vishyadi atmevu manom bondo yenat matmon vachavat. So last line's wrong. Udarit atmaratmanam. Yeah, Bandhu manastasyanat atmanmanavita atmanushatvatve vata atmeva sattvavat. So just learning these verses from the 6th chapter describes one should not degrade oneself through the mind. The mind can be the best of friends and his enemy as well. One who controlled the mind is the best of friends. If one who's failed to do so, the mind will be the greatest enemy. So Prabhupada's in the beginning, yeah, the business of the mind is to always be engaged in Krishna's business. And what's Krishna's business? So in one sense, it's preaching. That's Krishna's business. And also Krishna's business is to herd the cows and to be with Radharani. That's Krishna's business. So ultimately, the sadhana of a spontaneous devotee, this is their sadhana. This is what they practice doing. Yeah, the different levels of achievement, the stage before Shakti and Bhava, then it's definitely a practice. One is inclined to think and meditate upon Krishna. And they meditate throughout the day. That's why my Guru Maharaj is bringing out this book, Astakalya Lila. And he just says in passing, for those devotees so inclined to such remembrance, here is a book for you. He says it quite casually, because there are if the devotees out there who have this type of taste, here's a book for you. Yeah, here's a book describes what Krishna's doing at midday. Here's a verse, what he's doing in the early evening. This is what he does in the morning. This is for you. This is for you means those are more inclined to raganuga sadhana. This is for you. You know?
So we can remember Krishna all day.
Yeah, that's called Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
That's called Krishna consciousness. So raganuga sadhana means that you practice doing that. You practice it. Yeah. And if you practice it, then it will come and the natural attraction will actually come. But if you don't practice it, it won't come. But it may come. Maharaj describes about this. Someone may be absorbed in following really sincerely the instructions of their guru, and they may not be much inclined to hear to Krishna's, to Raj and the pastimes and Krishna's pastimes. Now, through that practice of sincere practice, then when they come to Bhava, that attraction will automatically manifest for Raj and for Krishna. So that's one path. Another path is that one may be inclined to read about these pastimes before the stage of bhava. Yeah. And that will help to invoke, or that will help to, that will help you to actually reach the stage of bhava. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, that's why you will go to Vrindavan. That's why you will go to Vraj. It's because you've already gone to Vraj. In your subtle body, you're already there. So it's only natural you're going to get placed there when you leave this world. Now it can happen other ways as well. It can be, sometimes it's all Krishna's grace and mercy. It can be that at the last stages of life, all this becomes known to you. Sometimes we'll see that happens. The devotees at the last stage of their life, like Mother Ratnaranjini is an example that's often given. Then she understood her Sarup. It can come before you're laying on your, what they call deathbed. But it may happen at that time, because at that time you become pretty serious about Krishna consciousness. Nothing else is worth thinking about. It ain't worth meditating on the new extension of the house, or what the grandchildren are not doing. There ain't no point anymore. So you completely absorb. You really absorb yourself, and that intense absorption, along with your lifetime of practice, can manifest in raganuga practice, where you're absorbed in Vrindavan. Prabhupada is going to describe more about this. It's called Raga Bhakti. He's going to describe more about this, because this is what the verse is about. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we went off on a little bit of a nice tangent. But this verse is speaking about raganuga sadhana, and it will continue from this point on. Sort of. All right, let's read some more. This purport is relatively short, so let's perhaps finish reading this purport. Sahachari Mother, you'd like to read, and then we can continue the discussion.
Okay, where are we continuing from? Again,
I think again Rupa Goswami, and you can read to the end.
Okay, thank you. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrta Sindhu 1-295, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha-rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsuna karya Vraja-lokanam saratha. In the transcendental realm of Vraja-dhāma, one should serve the Supreme Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sādhya, God realization, when one is siddha-puruṣa, or a spiritually perfect soul. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana-dasa, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varanadasa. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaranavastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and traces are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smaranadasa or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is called sampattidasa, the perfection of life. The Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the direction of scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. That is called raga bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna and Vrindavan. This is called raganuga bhakti. Raganuga bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in Santarasa. When one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in Krishna's hand, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, and Raktaka. In friendship, Sakya Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridham, or Sudama. In Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda, and in Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita, or her serving maids Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instructions in the matter of devotional service.
Okay. Wow. Any questions on this? There's perhaps, let's see, we've got 10 minutes left. If I just begin, then I'm here. I just want to point out this in the when Sachari, the first thing she read was, I've got it here on my screen. Save this verse that's quoted from the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrta Sindhu, Seva Sadhaka Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrihi. And specifically this point here at the end, this method, so let me just read the whole verse. In the transcendental realm of Raj, one should serve the Supreme Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa with feelings similar to that of his associates. One should place himself under the direction of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. Now, the next part, Shiva Ramaswami Maharaj and also Acharyas have commented greatly on this because it's a great curiosity. Because it's mentioned, this method of raganuga sadhana or raganuga is applicable at the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage. So that's quite a curiosity. And in a stage of sādhya, God realization. Yeah, okay, that we accept. But this method is applicable at the stage of sadhana, to think of the associates of Krishna. So even while you're in bondage, So Maharaj elaborates on it quite a bit in Prabhupada's definition of bondage. So can we do that? You know, is this applicable to us? And there's one small book that Maharaj has written called On Raganuga Bhakti. It's a small book. It's concise about the whole stage of raganuga, sadhana, and raganuga bhakti. And before time runs out, basically, if I remember correctly, this being applicable to stage of sadhana, so you can, within your mind, if you've you kind of, how can I say, if you're not an expert chanter, but you've made some, you're quite able to chant the holy name of the Lord 16 rounds without interruption, and you can do it with joy, and you can enter into meditation. Yeah, some type of meditation to one degree or another. You can think of yourself as, now just I'll be careful about this, you can think of yourself as a resident of Vraj and be inspired by particular associates. But the point is here, at that stage, you cannot and should not imagine that you have a particular service. It's very, what's the word? It's very observatory. You are not taking, you should not imagine yourself as being part of those pastimes. For instance, you can simply say, oh, you can simply meditate, oh, I'm really inspired by Radharani. I'm really inspired by her mood. I'm really inspired by Lalita and Vishaka. And you can meditate, and that will help your meditation. Yeah. Now, it doesn't indicate your Swarup. It's just a means to stay absorbed. You follow? It's a means to help you to be absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna. Or you can say, oh, well, I really like, feel a bit inclined to cowherd boys, you know, so you might meditate like that. Again, you do not ascribe yourself to be part of the pastimes. It's just, again, it's a means and a ways of becoming absorbed in a Krishna. So you follow? Now, at the stage which is spoken of later, at the end, when Prabhupada is speaking about this, I think we have spoken about this we gave classes on how to improve our chanting, and it was based on this last paragraph here. Oh no, the paragraph before that, yeah, where, yeah, the different degrees of remembrance. Now I've lost my train of thought. Now let me go back. Now, but when one does get to the stage of, which he said at the end of that paragraph,
Sampatidas.
yeah, Sampatidas. Now that's actually when you've gone back to Godhead, actually. that's the perfection. But when you do realize your Swarup, it may be and will be different from the method that you employed when you was practicing raganuga sadhana in the stage of bondage. It doesn't, if say in a stage of bondage, you're okay, you've meditated upon Radharani and her associates. At the stage of realization of your Swarup, it won't be the same. It might be, but generally it might be the same, but it won't be the same. So you understand? So this part, again, let me just go back. The method is applicable in both the stage of sadhana. So that's how it's applicable in the stage of sadhana. Spiritual practice executed while in the stage of bondage. Now, this means, as far as I remember, Maharaj says, at least this is the stage of nishta. Because at nishta, you're still in bondage. Being out of bondage means sampatidas. So you can practice that. You can practice remembering Krishna in that way, thinking of his associates and read about and read Krishna book. Okay, we're in a state of bondage, but to think of Krishna is allowed in a stage of bondage and as a type of raganuga sadhana. Yeah. Does that, I just wanted to highlight that. There's probably more here. 2 minutes or a few minutes. Any questions on that or reflections or clarifications? Everyone's already doing it.
When we were in Vraja-dhāma,
Yeah.
Maharaj said about what you said now.
Okay.
That when you are chanting and trying to remember, you don't get involved in the activity, but you are an observer. You just see them.
Yeah.
You don't take part in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for confirming that. Yeah. And I said, that's what I said. Yeah, you don't. So that's the type of raganuga sadhana that you can do. But you don't think, oh, now I'm doing this, now I'm combing Radharani's hair, or now I'm looking for Radharani's ankle bells, because then you're going into going on the realms of sahajism. You can see you have to be really careful at the different stages. You know, you're really careful, and this is because Maharaj just studied this subject, and obviously he's practicing it. So yeah, so you shouldn't imagine yourself packing Krishna's lunch or, you know, whatever it may be. It just kind of, yeah, you read about it, and through your bhajan, you may think and meditate, and it will help you. It will help you greatly to stay focused and absorbed, and you get a great taste from it as well.
What happens if you get carried away and you think you're part of it?
Well, then you shouldn't. Then you shouldn't actually get. Interesting. I was having a conversation with my Guru Maharaj a few years ago about my chanting, and I said, Guru Maharaj, I think I get carried away sometimes. And he said, you're supposed to get carried away. That's how he answered it. You're supposed to get carried away, he said, in actual chanting. That's what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, we were saying that to encourage me. But at the same time, is that we do understand, is that we shouldn't get carried. We shouldn't get carried away to the extent that we're, dressing Radharani and things like that.
No, the reality certainly it stops you. But I'm talking personally. The reality that, oh my God, no, it's not possible.
Yeah, but
being carried away. That's what my question is.
And that's, you bring up a good point, because that's why Prabhupada then brings up these different stages of being absorbed. Because you will find, and unless you've mastered the stage of hearing 16 realms, unless you mastered that stage of hearing, you're not going to be able to do this type of sadhana in a stage of bondage. Your mind will be too distracted. You won't have the qualification. So the qualification is the mind has to be controlled. And that's why Prabhupada's speaking this purport or this paragraph about the different degrees of being absorbed. Because, you can try what we just said tomorrow, but then your mind is thinking about, who's going to drop you off at the shopping center or what this or that. Your mind gets distracted. Or you start looking at your phone, checking your text messages, and that really is that's not doing justice to the subject matter of Raj Bhakti. Yeah, it doesn't do it. It's like it's not good. So then you won't be able to be absorbed like that. So it's practice. So yeah, that's why.
But then, Prabhu, doesn't one get actually absorbed? All right, it's one's imagination, but as long as it doesn't go too deeper, how do you? Because it's a lovely feeling, but you also come back to reality that it's, oh my God, no, it's not right. So that's what I mean. Is it so wrong to have those moments?
No, it's right, and it's no. We actually should be having those moments, especially interacting for the enchanted.
But Murli Prabhu, can I just say something like
Yes,
what you're
please.
explaining here? But if in case you get carried away, does it mean it's developing your bhava and prema later?
Well, just don't get carried away in imagining yourself. Just keep it simple. Don't imagine yourself taking part in the pastimes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't imagine yourself there. You are a observer. You do not have, don't ascribe yourself any particular service or any particular, because that's called sahajism. We're not, one is not qualified. That type of thing will be shown to you. You don't have to go to it.
It'll automatically happen when we obviously.
That's why my Guru Maharaj mentioned one time about what is it? He said, should I imagine myself? No, there is no question of imagination. There's no question of speculation. It's something that's shown to you, and then you then you go to what's being shown. But at our stage, we're kind of probably at the stage of raganuga to one degree, at the stage of bondage. So we're not. So there is no need to imagine. It will be shown to you when the time is right for your further spiritual development.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So just keep so don't get. Yeah. Don't get.
Prabhu,
Yeah.
is it good always you keep praying because you're praying to Srimati Radharani all the time without thinking of anything else, just to beg to, just allow help to serve. If you have that mode, and it's always like a separation mode, rather thinking of all these.
Yes, that's a nice thing to develop.
Yeah.
And especially when you're thinking like that and you're crying. And you're crying for some.
Safe, I felt.
Where it's really heartfelt. And inside so no, that's good. That's a good meditation. So Nitai Mata is attracted to Radharani, thinking like that. Yeah, but it's what we should. So always going to Radharani and asking for her mercy, asking for her blessings. And then you keep doing that, and then the meditation, then at some point I hope that we're crying for Radha's grace and mercy, crying for some service.
Yeah.
That means one's making advancement. Anyway, we've got into the realms of Raganuga Bhakti, and the time's over.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was very good. Thank you.
So I just want to peek at next week's verse.
Peek at it.
Okay, next week we're going to hear about Radha Kund, Govardhan Hill.
Yay.
Are we going to
Sadhana Bhaktas.
Thank you, Murli Prabhuji.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. It's very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you, Murli Prabhu.